Fantastic. Welcome to MMM, everyone. We got quite a few people coming already. I think we should wait like a minute or so before we start. But anyway, nice seeing a lot of familiar faces. I've hosted a few times now. Hope you've all had a good day. Here in London, it's super hot. It's 31 degrees. No idea what that is in Fahrenheit, but anyway, but it's very hot in London, and I probably in many parts of Europe, yeah. So the fan is in full swing behind me. Yeah, so I think we'll get started. Fantastic. So welcome everybody to Make the Most of Marriage, MMM. We are now, this is our 5th meeting. We're very excited to have everybody here again. And, we're trying to create some momentum, create something that people can rely on to attend every month. And also we do plan to add other things onto MMM as time goes by, other things to help support couples and families all across Europe and the world. So yeah, welcome. And tonight we have an exciting speaker, Yuna Johnson from America, and I'll introduce her in more detail just before she speaks. But before we start, we're going to just start off with a prayer. So Francesca is going to offer a prayer for this evening.
Okay.
Oh yeah, here we go. We got True Parents pictures up as well.
Yep. Okay. Please join me in prayer. Dear Honey Parents, the True Parents, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity we have together as couples, and thank you also on behalf of the MMM team for the amazing response and the support that we are shown by all these couples who come and participate in what we are organizing. We're really grateful for all these couples to want to spend time investing in their blessing, and we know how important it is to you. And we're really, really grateful that we're given this opportunity to spend time together, to get to know each other better, to learn from our great speakers. We pray that we can be open to listen and learn from Yuna tonight, and that we can have good conversations in the discussion groups and strengthen our friendships and maybe make some new friendships. And we want to invite you to be in the midst of all of this and to enjoy this evening with us. I pray this in our name, Francesca and Andreas, con la Santo couple. Adieu.
Adieu. Thank you, Francesca. Great. So I'm gonna do a quick for the people. There's a few new people that have signed up. We've seen, so we like to just do a quick intro to MMM, just so people know what it's all about. So our mission statement is creating a thriving community of fulfilled, blessed couples. So, and by doing these online events, basically supporting couples throughout Europe. And yeah, we have this vision of being able to reach people in their living rooms anywhere, and obviously bringing families and couples together throughout Europe, because we're all spread out. It can be hard to find somebody to connect to in your local community. So, through the group discussion, you can find new friends or new people that you can connect with, and also through the sort of TED Talk that we do, you can learn something new that you can implement in your couple. So that is a quick intro to that. We have the MMM staff team. Today we've prepared a little, just a little picture to show you. It's going to come up on the screen in a second. And it's consisting of 6 people. Here we go. So we have down in the left-hand corner, that's Abigail Iverson for Ireland. She was blessed in 2017 to Victor. We got Andy and Francesca, who live in Austria. Francesca is from Italy. Andy's from Austria. And then we have me. And this is my family, Emma, who's English. I'm Swedish American. We got 3 kids. Orlande, who's the BFD director, and she's sort of the founder of this, of the whole initiative, Blessed 2004 from Austria. And she's blessed with a Dutchman that I can't remember his name now. and Patrizia is from Italy. She's married to Franz, and they were blessed in 1989. So there we go. That's the MMM team, and we all do all different types. So sorts of things. We take turn doing different things, and we support each other, and we come up with different ideas and introduce and invite speakers and so on. So there you go. So that's our quick intro to MMM. So to introduce tonight's speaker, we have Yuna Johnson. She is an American second generation, and she has just moved back to the United States because she has just received a role to become the American Blessed Family Department Director. So she's just moved over there, and yeah, she's blessed to Alex Johansson from Norway, and they have 2 kids. And she lived in Norway for quite a few years, and now just recently moved back to the US. So tonight she's going to be talking about friendship in your marriage and how you can connect better to your spouse. And she's going to go through the 4 C's of friendship and connection, I suppose. So she'll introduce it further in her speech now. So if we can all give her a nice wave, because everybody's on mute. And Yuna, yeah, welcome to MMM. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for that great introduction. And I love the intro and mission statement of MMM. It's great. Thriving.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll share my screen. I'm excited to share about these 4 C's. This is actually these 4 C's of connection. This idea came about first in a talk with matched couples, explaining about the realm of siblings love, how that's it's in a great realm of heart, and it's so important foundation in our marriage. And so that's kind of, just so you know, the background, but how to build this friendship in our marriage is so important. And these 4 C's are simple ways to remember that. So here we go. To start off, I'm going to use a lot of pictures in this presentation that maybe they're kind of random, but to symbolize certain things. I think it helps sink in the concept more. But when we talk about connection and commitment, connection is really this glue of commitment. And commitment is interesting. I was having a talk recently with a young blessed couple about, what is commitment and what does that look like? And the sister was really wondering, like, does it mean that I'm absolutely sure 100% what's going to happen no matter what? And I said, it's more like commitment is your willingness. How can we figure this out? Things may come, challenges, but how can we make this work? And having your connection, how well you're connected to each other, the trust, your vulnerability, that helps you to strengthen in those times where challenges may come, where you have to keep recommitting all the time. So this idea of thinking of glue is like, you got to keep reapplying it, keep working together. Connection is something you keep building, and commitment is also something you keep building. You keep committing to each other again and figuring out how can we make this work in challenges. And it's something not just about in challenging times, but connection especially is something we're constantly building as we grow and deepen our relationships. So going into these 4 C's of connection, the first C and the picture is curiosity. I got the curious cat there. This is a great quote. I love this quote. Be curious, not judgmental. It's something that reminds me of something we learned, and maybe some of you were in this, in Safe Conversations. It's another relationship program applying how to communicate well with each other. And one of the things they emphasize a lot is about curiosity, especially in times of conflict, where, especially with husband and wife, when someone reacts strongly to something, or it's easy to feel upset or to feel defensive or take it personally, but thinking more curiosity, like being curious about, wait, why did they react that way? That's really interesting. That can help make a lot of situations calm down more, because instead of feeling like focusing on how we felt, we're thinking about, okay, why did my husband react so strongly to that? And trying to figure out what's going on with them. So that's one aspect of curiosity that's really helpful in connecting through conflict, or in challenging situations. But in general, curiosity also is just a really great way to keep getting to know each other and keep interest, recognizing that we always have something to learn from each other. And I think sometimes being together for a long time, you can feel like, oh, we already know everything, or we sometimes, I know I do this, I have a tendency to like zone out. My husband starts talking about certain topic or like a story he's already told before. I'm like, man, I already know that. You know, we can do those things, but being curious is so important to like, okay, what's something I don't know? Or sometimes we had this fun couples questions we used to do while we were doing dishes, where it was like we would ask each other random questions, like if there were ever to be a movie made of our life, like which actor would you want to play you and which actress would play me? And we talk about childhood memories, and it was just these really random questions we had found. I can post that somewhere if someone wants those questions, but it was just a fun way to discover, like, we have so much more we don't know about each other, and that's a great way to keep building that connection, because you kind of see each other in a different way. So, and another example, something that we did early on was, because we're so different, and maybe I think a lot of us blessed couples, we are very different in our interests in like the type of books we like and movies, my husband and I. So we, in the beginning of our relationship, we were really just curious to, like, we read each other's favorite books, even though it wasn't a genre we're interested in or anything, but it helped us to just see each other in a different way and to appreciate what's unique about us, you know? So that's a great element of curiosity, and it's just a fun way to, I like to say, like, take pressure off, because sometimes we can put so much pressure on our relationship, and being curious, just like this quote, helps to just, you know, figure out, like, see a situation more in a lighter sense, right? Instead of trying to overanalyze or immediately interpret something our spouse does as a way of like hurting us, right? So I love this one. This one I feel is something that I naturally, with the C's, is easier for me to do. The next one is harder for me, surprisingly, in marriage, and that one is caring. True love is living for the sake of the other before you even think about the other doing something for you. I love that quote. You've probably heard similar, you know, from true parents about true love. This is interesting, and I put this little picture of this bear here with the bandages, because I noticed for us in our relationship, one area where sometimes we weren't always as caring for each other is when we were sick and taking care of one another. And I feel some people are more natural at being really empathetic and supporting each other. And I felt in many ways I'm naturally empathetic and I care a lot of other people. But sometimes in our own relationship with my husband, I was much harder on him. And I noticed this caring part was harder because sometimes, and maybe you can raise your hand if you've done this, we could be calculating. We kind of, okay, I did such and such and such, you know, like I've cleaned the house and did all these things, and we're kind of calculating what each person is contributing. And that's such a recipe for disaster, right? And that's why this quote from True Parents is so great, because it hits this right on the head, you know, just do it, just give, just care before even thinking about, you know, they didn't do this for me last time I was sick, or he didn't do this that time, but do it anyway. That's really what love is. And the more that we do that, the more that our love grows. And I know that's something we experienced a lot, my husband and I, of like, true love is, you don't need anything to give true love. It's something you choose and you give. And so caring, just in a nutshell, really is about that empathy, about putting ourselves in our spouse's shoes, thinking about them and their situation, and how can you support them. And it's also, you know, something I think about with caring is the love languages. Maybe you've heard of that, or someone talked about it before, the 5 love languages. That's another way to express caring, because it's a lot of times we give love the way that we want to receive it. And it's hard to give love the way our spouse needs it. So knowing about those love languages and what your spouse's love language is, and that they know yours, that's a way to help this empathy and developing your caring, which is a really important way to connect, to feel that you're understood and you understand each other. So you can type in the chat. It's hard to be so interactive, right, with Zoom, but type in the chat if you know your love language, if you've done the 5 love languages, if you know your spouse's, let me know, put them out there. And someone can type even what they are. for those of who haven't, because I really recommend checking that out.
I can write them out. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, so the third C is creativity. And creativity, you know, it's so much more than just like doing something out of the box or, you know, doing something related to arts and crafts. Expressing creativity as a form of love is really about this kind of, it's the thought that counts. It's about how much thought you put and the ways you show your spouse that you're thinking of them. And, you know, it can be creating some great gift or making a surprise, something that makes them happy or something like that. But it can also be just getting really creative about finding ways to spend quality time together when you're busy in your schedules. Creativity is about not comparing with other couples or with Hollywood movies or other things, and finding, you know, putting more energy into what kind of relationship you're creating together. What does that, you know, how can you keep growing? This is a discussion my husband and I were having recently. Is like, we never really sat down and made kind of a vision as a couple, like where we want to go. You know, we kind of worked a lot towards getting blessed, and then in the blessing, we're excited, and we didn't really think a lot like, okay, like I have this really clear sense in my mind of like how I can be a better wife. I always feel that. How can I be a better wife, you know, and really create a family, an ideal family? And it's not like, you know, I think all of us know that, right? It's not something that just happens. You have to be really intentional about it. And having a vision is a helpful way to get creative. Like that's part of creativity. It's like how we're creating that vision. What do we do, you know? So this is something we're working on, and I think that's a great activity to do, is have a vision, because it gives you this sense of like we're always building towards something. So that's, I gave a lot of definitions of creativity, but it's, you know, it's whatever you want it to be, but really putting that time and thought into thinking about your spouse, showing that you're caring for them, and also thinking about how your relationship is, where your relationship is going. And just one more point on that of like creating and building. Again, this is from, I'm referencing all these marriage things because that's where I got all these ideas from, but safe conversations. Maybe we can put that in the chat too, relationships first.
Yes, actually, yeah, we did that. There is an MMN on safe conversations, and
Awesome.
but we haven't done the love languages, I think, but we've been promoting the marriage course.
Oh, yeah, great. Oh, good. The marriage course is going to come up in one of the next ones. But safe conversations, they talk about this point of like your relationship is the space between. It's not like who you are as people, but what you put into that space between you. And that really helped us in this point of like connecting better and being more creative about how we're growing our relationship, because it wasn't about like thinking, you know, sometimes we put so much pressure again on thinking about how, oh, if my husband was only like this, or if my wife was only like this, it would be so much easier. But instead it's, what is the relationship we want to create? You know, a relationship of honesty, or a relationship of adventure, a relationship of fun, and what am I putting to contribute to make that happen? Like, how am I in that space in between us? You know, how are we bringing fun? How are we bringing honesty? And that's where you can get really creative, you know, finding ways to bring those aspects that you want in your relationship. But a lot of times, if we haven't even thought that through, like the vision or what we want to build, it's like in the day-to-day, it's really hard to suddenly be like spontaneous and let's do this because you're upset about something else, or we can get kind of stuck, right? And that was what I was sharing in the promo video, how we get stuck in a certain mode in our relationship. And taking that step to the next level, you've got to be kind of creative, and you've also got to be vulnerable. And because sometimes it's hard, you've gotten to a sort of space together, and maybe you're used to that and you predict what the other person is going to do, but how do we keep growing? Because growing sometimes is uncomfortable, right? Growing pains. And the last, fourth C, it helps with that. You probably might guess this one of all the C's, connection. It's communication. And this is what helps sometimes with bridging that, like, feeling like we're kind of in a certain mode, or, you know, where we relate to each other, but we could go deeper. And one of those ways is through communication. And there's actually 3 levels of communication. This is something I took straight from the marriage course, so it's in the marriage course. But the 3 levels of communication are facts, ideas, and feelings. And they go 1, 2, 3 in terms of the depth. So when you're communicating at feelings level, that's what strengthens your connection and builds connection. The other 2, and I'm going to give examples of what they are, those 2 are ways we communicate, but if you only communicate at that level, that's where you can feel like, even though you've been living together and talking about lots of challenging things maybe, but the way you've talked about them, you haven't expressed your feelings, then it feels like you don't really know each other. And so these levels of communicating are so important because, again, building this connection, helping us feel that glue, the commitment. It's also being able that no matter what, we can express, we're always seeking to understand each other and be able to feel understood. So just to give you some examples of what these different levels of communication look like. The first one, communicating about facts, you know, it can be anything from like, I'm gonna miss, you know, the train is leaving now, or the kids need to be picked up at 4, right? A lot of times, especially I know a family with young kids, it's like the logistics. We talk about that a lot because there's a lot of things that have to happen. Who's gonna do this? Did you remember to pay that bill? Did you remember to check the car? You know, all those things, and they are important, but and most of the time that does dominate a lot of our day, especially when we're busy. So we have to be really intentional about finding times when we can communicate on deeper levels. The second one, communicating about ideas, is more like sharing about opinions or things that you're thinking. So it's like, an example would be, you know, reading the newspaper and, oh, I really agree with, you know, this politician, or I disagree with this, and sharing your opinions on issues and topics. Or it could be sharing, like, I think we really need to budget better. We need to talk about our budget and sit down. We need to spend more time with the kids. Those are thoughts that are coming up, and you're expressing that and your opinion and what you think you should do. And we also communicate a lot on that level. And it does kind of seem like it's, again, a certain depth of closeness there. But also, if you only are communicating thoughts without like the feelings behind it, then it's easy to feel that we don't fully know each other. Like, why do you like that politician? Or why do you think it's important to spend time with the kids? So going into the third one about feelings, that's really where you express, and it takes a lot of vulnerability and trust, because you can express about things, especially difficult emotions, but also happy emotions that come up, and being able to tell each other. So one example would be like, you know, the other day when you said blah, 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 that really hurt me because it reminded me of something that my parents used to say to me. Or being able to express when you felt disappointed. And it's helpful to use these I messages, like not blaming them. You always say this and that, but saying, you know, when you said this, I felt this. Right? That's how we communicate those feelings. But it's so important because that's showing, it's communicating at this emotional level, and being able to express our emotions with each other is what brings that depth of feeling understood. And that's ultimately what we all want, you know. And what's interesting in the marriage course was they were talking about this, like communicating at the level of feelings is the key for connection. You can't have connection without that. And a lot of times they said the challenges in marriage aren't usually these big things. It's about losing this connection, right? You know, not having that glue over time and feeling like you know less and less about each other. And so feeling that way, what can we do? How can we, you know, it's not so much to get stuck like, oh no, we haven't been communicating enough about our feelings, or where do we even start? Just start small. It doesn't have to be like this huge thing. And that's why these 4 C's, like communication is, I think, something that's, of course, we all know it's so important, but it's not always easy. And for my husband and I, just for example, and that's explaining this image here with the pen, one thing that we did that helped us communicate feelings, because that wasn't easy to do, especially for my husband, was we would actually write it out. So we would write letters to each other, or we would sometimes, if I asked a question and he would say, I'll get back to you. He couldn't answer then, or he would write an answer. So it wasn't, we could still communicate the level of feelings without speaking in person, because it was harder to do it that way, and also with the different languages too. So there's a lot of ways that, and that's an example where I felt we got creative about how we could communicate better because we struggled with communicating. So that's where these other, all the C's connect together, because it's so important to just keep investing, right? Even if it's something small, keep taking steps toward connecting more together. So just to summarize the 4 C's, the 4 ways of expressing love and connecting, I like to sum them up in just one question you can ask, because that's really helpful. So curiosity, what can I learn? What can I learn from my spouse? Or what can I learn from how they're reacting right now or something? Caring, how can I support or serve? You can sum it up as living for the sake of each other, right? Creativity, how can I surprise or bring joy? And communication, how can I understand? At the root of it, that's communication, right? Seeking to understand more than we're seeking to be understood. And these four ways, and we're going to go into this in our discussion groups about examples and how we can practice this. But I think having one question and also having those images I shared can help to just think of, okay, what's one way we can start deepening our connection with each other and continue deepening, continue investing. So again, just to emphasize, connection is the glue of commitment, and it's curiosity, caring, creativity, communication, they all help build that connection. So that's it, what I was going to share. I can bring up the reflection questions, but I'm not sure if we want to do question and answer anything first.
Yes, we thought we'd do some Q&A. Thank you so much, Jenna. That was great. Fantastic. A lot of, it's a great summary of a lot of good content. Which
all
is
the
awesome.
Marriage stuff.
A lot of marriage stuff in one. Well, you are the BFD director of the US, so there you go. It should be summarized by you, if anybody. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So we've had some questions come in. Let me see. Some people send it to me directly. So I mean, actually, so okay, you shared about creativity, right? So I guess one of the ideas you came up with was, the list. Actually, I think you should definitely share that list of questions you can ask each other. I think that would be great for everybody. I'm quite curious to read them as well. But also, there's been a question just if there was any other ideas of how you can, keep how can you be creative in your blessing?
Yeah, with creativity or curiosity?
No, creativity.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing, right? Like, it's kind of ideas. One of the things I think is about observing each other. It kind of, like, I connect a lot of these C's together. And sorry if I was talking fast. I get excited. I talk kind of fast. So I can go over any point that was missed. But
no worries.
So I think curiosity and creativity can go really well together, because one of the key things about creativity is observation. It's like really taking the time to observe your spouse, your husband or wife. And a lot of times, like I said, we can kind of glaze over things or feel like we know all things about them. But if we just watch them and observe them, you can get a lot of ideas. So I was trying to think of an example if there's something recently that we did, but that would be my tip of, like, maybe start with observing and kind of getting some ideas for how you could be more creative, because a lot of the creativity is the thought you put into it and the unique way that you make your spouse feel happy because you've thought of them, or you tried. I know there's sometimes my husband, like for me, I really like surprises, so I try to encourage him to get creative, but sometimes that can go, can go the wrong way.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
I
sure.
think early on, one time he surprised me with a movie, which was so fun, but the movie itself, I was like, man, not,
Not
but I
fun.
appreciated the thought of like the surprise. So that was kind of the,
Yeah.
the point with creativity. Does anyone else from the audience have an example of creativity? I think that would be cool in their relationship, or you can type it in the chat.
Exactly. If somebody wants to share something about that.
Observed.
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, it's surprising. I've tried my share of surprises. I think, I don't know. I'm married to a woman that doesn't like surprises. Yeah, I think I'll probably succeed at some point, but maybe, yeah, I think, yeah, it's good. I just tell her a bit in advance, get her involved a little bit. That's my
Yeah,
tip.
exactly. And my husband's learned, because I like surprises so much, but I like want to know that he's planning something. So he has to tell me, planning something, but it's a surprise. And they're like, oh, okay.
Okay,
Like,
good.
you
At
didn't
least you can,
forget, or,
he's planning. That's good.
Yeah. But it's funny, and I think that's the fun part, is like the ways you learn, and you learn by, mistakes. I don't know if it's mistakes, but like things that didn't work out, and it becomes a funny memory. So I think that's the whole point of, again, being curious and creative, have fun. That's a huge part of connection.
Exactly. That's awesome. Let's see. I think we have time for one more question. Yeah, here's one more. So out of the 4 C's, which one has helped you the most in your couple? And can you give like an actual example from from memory, like a story or something from that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So, I mean, communication was a huge one for us, both as like a challenge, and actually still is. And I think for a lot of us, learning to communicate, learning, for me, being a better listener and all those things. But it's also been a huge way that we've grown in our relationship. So just one story early on is, like I said, that for my husband, Alexander, it was harder to communicate. And I'm also quite intense. We've learned not to talk face to face about serious things, like talk side by side.
Shoulder to shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah, I could get very expressive, and shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, and we're, we have each other's back. And but earlier on, I remember one time, a lot of times I would ask him a question and he wouldn't be able to respond, right? He would just be silent, or I knew he was thinking about it, but he would like open up his mouth and then he wouldn't say anything. So he'd be like, and I used to get so upset. I would be like,
Oh, no.
why can't you just talk to me, And he would, I learned later that he was thinking, like, he's overthinking, like, okay, if I say that, what's she gonna say and respond? But for me, the only thing I'm hearing is silence, right? So I get really frustrated. And there was one moment I remember where I just told him, like, I told myself, I was like, I'm gonna ask this question and I'm not gonna say anything and just wait for his answer. Because what happened was, in our communication, I became a bad interrupter, or I would try to like answer for him, because, I thought I was helping, but I didn't listen. It wasn't always letting him have that space. So I decided, but I had kind of done it in a negative way, where I was like, I'm just not gonna say anything until he says something. And in that time, he was like waiting a long time to say anything, and it would be like he'd almost speak, and then he wouldn't say anything. And I was just building up my frustration. It was like, if there was like a cloud or whatever, like I was just getting so angry, even though I wasn't saying anything. My emotions were so angry, and it hit me like, oh my goodness, how can he speak in this crazy environment? Like, he must feel it. We're spiritual beings, right? He can feel my anger, even though I'm not saying it. And the very thing that I want from him to speak, I'm actually getting in the way of that, because of, like, I'm putting all this pressure on him. And so it hit me like how many times we can do that. Like, we think the thing that we want the most, often we are getting in the way of it. And for me, it was so much like, I felt like I want to be able to love you and give you love, and I want to be able to understand you. So you need to communicate with me your feelings. And even if it's something you think I might get offended, please tell me. I want to know. And I was getting so upset because I felt like he couldn't trust me or tell me. But I realized then that like actually you don't need anything to give. Like, so I was holding that back. I wasn't giving love because I felt he wasn't communicating enough with me. But instead you can always give love. Like true love is that, right? You don't need something from them to give. And so that was a huge kind of realization for us around communication, because yes, it's important, like I was saying about the connections, but even if you have a challenge, how can you still love anyway, right? And that's how we could eventually find this other way of communicating through writing, because again, it took the pressure off, like we have to communicate this way, and why don't you do this better, and all those things. So yeah, it's not about you, right? It's about really looking at your spouse and wanting to find out how to make this work, you know. So
Fantastic. Yeah. Wow, that's a great story. And very relatable, actually. I mean, I think you had a lot to talk to with my wife, because she had the same problems with me. Maybe, I don't know if it's, I don't know. Anyway, so I can relate to that as well. And actually, we used the same method early in our relationship, because we had some bigger things to overcome early on. And we actually, yeah, I mean, I don't know if somebody recommended it or whatever, but we also took to texting and writing to each other in order to solve these bigger issues. So I could definitely vouch for that as a very good technique, especially if it's something emotionally loaded, where one of you are going to get emotionally upset, because then it becomes an immediate block. And or I mean, I was also like, my family was like, came from a background of never talking about anything, and Emma's family talks about everything. So there you go. So that was part of the problem.
Our families were like that. Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I couldn't talk about these things because my family never talked about it. There was too much emotional charge around it. So I had no examples of talking about that. So writing is a good way for sure. Very good tip.
And that's one of those things with in the marriage course, when I talked about those feelings, like as the third level, sometimes the challenge is not even knowing how to say what feeling you're feeling. So it helps to like look up different feelings and go through that. Especially if that is the case where you didn't communicate about those things before, it's not like something you can just pick up. It's a skill we've got to learn. And that's the big thing I want to take away is like, of these points, it's have fun, enjoy learning these, keep working on it, not feeling like, oh man, feeling bad for what we don't have. And that's what the nice reflection questions are about, is we can reflect ourselves on which C's come more naturally. Should I pull that up? Slide. Reflection question. So which of the four, curiosity, caring, creativity, and communication, is more natural or easy for you to do? That's the first one. And then second is, which one is more difficult for you to do or just difficult to remember?
Fantastic. Great. And we'll post them. You can, I think we'll post them in the chat as well, for the groups, in the groups as well. Great. So I think we'll go into the groups. Yuna will also be in a group. So we'll all go into groups. Today, I think we have time for about 35 minutes, because we still have plenty of time. So it'll be 35 minutes in the group, and then we'll meet back here in this space and for a final get together and final announcements and things. So have a nice time in your groups, and remember to go through. Remember everybody to just introduce yourself quickly, put your video and unmute yourself, and I think we're ready to go. Good. Enjoy, everybody. Hope everybody had some good discussions. So it's nice to see everybody's face afterwards. Nice to connect to other people. Good, nice. So if there's, I guess we usually open the floor if anybody wants to share anything from any other groups. We've yet to have any volunteers for this, usually. But if there was anybody, or maybe anybody from the MMM team, or Yuna, or anybody wants to share anything from the groups. Yeah. So
I can
well,
share. I
so
don't
who
know.
said?
Someone else. It's me, but I was going to say if someone else wants to, I'd rather hear. We just added one more C in our group, or like
Oh, really? Okay,
we were
let's hear
talking
it.
about another great C is compliment and how we complement each other. So some were sharing about how one is more caring in certain areas or more creative in certain areas, and then the other one is more creative in other times. So they complement each other in these 4 C's. So like, oh, that's a
Fantastic.
great C.
So you can upgrade your presentation to 5 C's next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wrap them up.
That's really good. Upgrade. Yeah. But actually, it's really interesting you said that. That same topic came up in my group as well. And the fact that, we do complement each other. But actually, when we start talking about creativity and being creative, like one of the sort of, I guess, the problems people were having was the fact that we're so different as well. And it's hard to be creative because we're so different. So like, yeah. And of course, and of course, in a very positive light, you complement each other and you can help each other. But when it comes to actually maybe doing something fun together or doing something you both like, it can be very difficult, very difficult. But we had, so that was sort of the problem that was presented in my group. We had some good examples where somebody, like loved to go into town and go shopping and go in this, go to some new place, restaurant or something, and that was the other person's idea of a nightmare, going into the city. And also like even just doing something like, they like maybe more to go to their local place or some place they know they like the food kind of thing. So but the way they solved that problem was they found that they both like traveling like maybe an hour somewhere, like to a new place they've never been to before, and in that way it was that newness for one person, and the other person just like driving and like like being, but also like just going to somewhere that was in the city. So I thought that was a very good tip. So that, I think, so that was some kind of inspiration, and on that fifth C, on the fifth C topic as well. Great. Good. So Jonna, do you want to add anything or any recommendations, like book reading, like books people can read, or anything
Yeah.
else you want to say to end?
I'm trying to find these questions. I'll probably have to send them when I find them that I mentioned, like that you could ask each other,
Yeah.
curiosity or creative. But yeah, I wanted to just say that the creativity is also that problem solving, like that example, how they were creative about how to find a way. That's creativity there, even if it's doing. So that's it's an interesting one. Overall, just thank you. This was fun. I'm glad I could share. Thanks for listening, and I hope you can use these C's, keep developing your connection.
Fantastic. Yeah, and thank you for coming and speaking to us. I think it stimulated really nice discussions and some new interesting and a nice summary as well. Just a nice summary of a lot of different things into an easy to remember C framework. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just say a prayer for us, and then I'm going to make some final announcements before we conclude tonight.
Join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for today. Thank you that we could gather together, MMM, and to really share openly and with one another as blessed couples. It's so precious that we have each other, that we're in this tradition, that so many of us are blessed at the same time with other couples, and this ability to gather together and to share and grow and learn is so precious. So we're grateful to you and to True Parents, and pray for everyone now that we can go forward excited about the ways that we're deepening our relationship and connection, and to really see how you're working always, and so happy to be amidst our families and in our husband and wife relationship. I pray and report all this on behalf of everyone here in the name of Jan Johansson of a Blessed Central Family. Aju.
Aju. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jonna. Great. So I'm just going to make some final announcements. So obviously the group discussion will be open for people who want to join back for some extra socializing and discussion. And always remember, don't be offended if people can't come back. It could be for all sorts of reasons, kids or whatever, they have to get up early in the morning. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, we always like to promote other things. You can see on the screen now we have the BFD website, which is yeah, not everybody knows about maybe or haven't been to recently, but there's a lot of good resources on there. It's on the screen now. We'll also include it in the next in the review form that we'll be sending after this meeting as well. We can include those, but there's some really good details there. Actually, we were looking in our last staff meeting the fact that there's quite a lot of good counselors we have as well. So if you do need somebody or want to talk to somebody like a professional about something, it could be really good. It has also been something that's been recommended by other speakers that's come to us that's really helped them in their relationship sometimes when they've been stuck, just to get somebody else to talk to. Also, I just want to say as well that I personally work as we call it a sharer person or sharing person here in the UK, but also we're looking to expand that to all of Europe. So also even after this, if you wanted to reach out to me or at any point, just to have a first point of contact to share about your situation, I'm happy to talk to you. And then, you know, and sometimes it can help just to share with somebody. And sometimes also, yeah, sometimes we need extra help. So I can also then refer you to somebody else. So I would definitely encourage you to do so. And it can really, yeah, just help you resolve something in your relationship. So let me just make sure I didn't miss any other announcements. 1 second. Great. No, I think that's it. So that's great. So anyway, thank you everyone for coming. It's been great having you.
Wait, Daniel.
Thanks again. Oh yeah, Andy has something.
No, the refresh your blessing workshop.
Okay, sorry. Okay, there was one more announcement. I knew it. So there's also the Refresh Your Blessing workshop, which you can see the link as well on the screen at the moment. So that's happening very soon. Andy, what's the date for that?
It's for couples blessed at least 25 years.
Oh, so Francesca, you broke up. We couldn't hear you there.
Sorry, it's starting tomorrow.
Okay.
And it's for couples that have been blessed for at least 25 years. So a lot of our couples.
Okay, so it's sort of like okay. So it's for people that have been blessed 25 years or longer.
Yeah.
And starting tomorrow. And I think you can follow this link. And we will share this link as well in the next email going out to you. Great, that's it. Fantastic. Okay, thanks again, everybody. We hope to see you next time, and take care of each other, and
Thank you.
all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Yuna. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.